So you said that some of the writing in the newspaper article upset you.
Yeah, when this,
All of it?
yeah, pretty much. When I read this, I actually had to go back through and read it again because the only thing that I recognized was Ryan's name. Everything else seems to be so off track. It starts out with, it says, after wrestling with a state trooper and allegedly twice pointing a loaded rifle at a team of officers who were trying to take him into custody for a probation violation. Well, the first thing, we had actually called and asked for help, and that's why they were there. Not so much because of a probation violation. We had requested their help. He never pointed a weapon at anybody. And as far as wrestling, the only thing that really happened is when the police approached him, he ran in probably 4 or 5 steps to get into his vehicle. One of the officers had a gun in his hand and grabbed hold of him by the shoulder, and he tripped a little bit, but he got into his car, and there was really no wrestling match or anything.
It says he picked himself up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
And you know what? If he was wrestling with this police officer, and he really fell on the ground, well, what was the police officer doing? Why wouldn't he have stepped on his head or pointed the gun at him or something? It just didn't happen.
It says that we had said they had information that he was armed, that he had a rifle in his possession. And this apparently a lot of this came from Lieutenant David Young, commander of the criminal investigation at the Montoursville Barracks. Anytime there was a gun involved, there's a potential for violence. Well, we're not going to deny that. The reason Ryan had the gun, and they all knew it, that he had no intentions of hurting anybody else. He was going to take his own life. It says that after a brief struggle between the two men, Jasper managed to break free, get on his feet, run to his truck. He climbed into the driver's seat, grabbed a rifle from the truck's passenger side, dropped the gun. A team of officers repeatedly ordered Jasper, who then pointed the gun in the direction of the officers. Well, this whole incident took 10 to 12 seconds at the most. Dina and I were right there. We were within a couple feet of his vehicle. Never once did he ever point that gun at anybody. When he got into the vehicle, when he closed the door, locked it, he slid over to the middle of the seat, grabbed the gun. He did have it. To me, it looked like he possibly could have got hung up on the console or whatever. The only direction that gun ever was straight up. When he got it past the console, he put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. But as soon as he started to pick the gun up, that's when the shots started from the police, probation, combination of both, whatever. We never heard anything. The only thing that I really heard was Dina, hollering for the police not to shoot him, and I was hollering for him not to pick the gun up. And it says, when Jasper failed to drop the rifle, a trooper fired 1 round into the truck. The gunman then allegedly pointed the rifle a second time in the direction of officers. The trooper fired 2 more rounds. One of the state parole agents also fired his weapon. At that point, it says, Jasper turned the rifle on himself. Now, it says the entire confrontation from the time when Jasper wrestled with the state trooper to when he took his own life lasted less than a minute. That's so far. There's a big difference.
It was less than 15 seconds.
Yeah. It says he was distraught over his situation. No matter what we did, he was determined not to go back to prison, Young added. Now, I don't understand how they can, no matter what they did, this thing, we asked for help. Basically, the long and short of it is, the police showed up. We had no idea. Nobody ever even told us that the police were coming. Our plan was that we were hoping that his parole officers that Dina and I could keep him occupied, and they could get the gun, and we could get him the help that he desperately needed. Never knew police were coming, and so within a matter of seconds, everybody comes rolling in, with guns drawn, shots fired, and it was over.
But the point is, the newspaper article was, all the quotes were by David Young, and I called him the next morning. I was so upset and I was crying, and but at that time I didn't even know he was the one who quoted, and he basically said that the Sun Gazette did it because they like to sell newspapers and they like to sensationalize, and I understand them pulling up his record. That's what they do. They
So Mr. Young denied?
He didn't deny. Well, he didn't even tell me that he's the one that said this. I found out later because I was so upset I couldn't even read it, and my husband told me what it said. And when I did read it, I could not believe that there's hardly anything in there that's true. It was quoted by a person who wasn't even there. The investigation was only 2 days in. They hadn't even talked to us yet. And they had all this information, which is, hearsay from, I don't know, maybe some preliminary reports or something. But to actually quote this in the newspaper, knowing that it's going to be in there the same day as his obituary, is just...
Was Mr. Young at the scene?
Immoral. He came later after it happened.
After
He came
the
later, and nobody ever interviewed us. Nobody talked to us. Nobody asked us any questions. And a lot of the information in this article is assumptions and hearsay, and all it did was hurt all of us. It hurt our family. Mm-hmm. It hurt Ryan's business, which, I'm trying to bring that back. But the thing is where's the integrity of a state police officer to quote all this information to the newspaper when nobody had even talked to us and asked us what happened? And we were right there. We were the closest two people. Okay. And then the Sun Gazette never asked us either. They just told us if we wanted to write a letter to the editor that he would print it, which I think we're going to do, right? It's been 2 months.
Yeah.